Hey guys, welcome to part 3 and the final part of the Ryzen overclocking series. Um, Pretty much we're just going to be doing benchmarks today. I'll post up the IDA64 memory bandwidth numbers and the latency numbers, and I'll also post up the bandwidth and latency numbers of the 4970K just for reference. I don't have the 3970X anymore, but I know that that one had a bandwidth of about 50 gigabytes a second and about 60 nanoseconds. Pretty much identical to the Ryzen chip. Like, almost exactly the same bandwidth and latency. So what we're going to be comparing today is newer architecture, Ryzen 3000, lower clocks, higher IPC, higher latency, but a current platform. And then we're going to compare that with the 4790K, what is it now, 4 years old, 5 years old, about 20 seconds less latency and lower IPC. How are they going to stack up in gaming benchmarks? Well, let's get right to it. Before I show you the charts, one little point. The 3300X is currently the only Ryzen 3000 chip that I actually recommend people to buy. Except for the 3950X that has like, if you're buying that chip, you're buying it for a specific purpose. You don't need it for gaming, and the game's the same as this one. I mean, unless the game, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, uses 16 cores or whatever. But for the most part, the 3300X has the new silicon in it, the same as the XT chips. So you can get 4.5 gigahertz on all cores on these things. The Infinity Fabric goes to 1900. Like all the benefits of the new XT chips are in this thing, and this thing doesn't have the drawbacks of having another CCX to have intercore latency. You know what I mean? So would you buy the 3600 over this? I wouldn't, just because instead of having 4 cores in one CCX with no lag, you have 2 3-core CCXs. And they'll also, I think they only clock to like 4.1 or 4.2 all core. Like, the silicon is garbage in those things. So you'll actually game worse than you would on this chip. And this one's cheaper. But you can't find them anywhere. I think people are starting to catch on to these things now. Yeah, this or the 3950X. If you want an 8-core, I would go Intel, to be honest. What I would do is, if you're wanting to go AMD, get a 3300X and an X570. B550s are kind of weird in my opinion. They cost the same, and they don't have PCI Express 4 lanes to the chipset. That seems... Just get X570. I don't know. That seems kind of weird to me. And what was I gonna say now? Get X570 and get a 3300X, and then wait for Ryzen 4000. Those ones are going to have 8 cores on one CCX and one CCD. Those things, even if they keep the same IPC and same core clock, like let's just assume everything is the same, but you're getting 8 cores on one CCX now, those things are going to game way better than the Ryzen 3000 series. Like a 3700, yeah, I have to imagine it being like, I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but a 3700X or 3800X is pretty much 2 quad cores that, imagine having a dual socket motherboard with 2 quad cores in it. It's just not built for gaming. Like, it's just too damn laggy, you know what I mean? Even with the IPC increases, but one quad core that's really fast is always gonna game better, you know what I mean? But the Ryzen 4000 series, if you have 2 8-core CPUs in a motherboard, like a 4950X, that thing is gonna be a champ. Like, that's probably where I'm gonna go. I'm waiting for that to come out, and then I'll probably switch to that from the Intel platform. But anyway, rant over. Let's get to the benchmarks and let's see what's up with 3300X versus a 4790K. Alright guys, those are the results. The 3300X wins by just a smidge over the other two CPUs. Except in Call of Duty Warzone for some reason. I mean, that game has to be latency bound. And that one does scale with cores. So it's like the 3970X has the cores, and then the 4790K has the latency. So it kind of like averages out a little bit. But yeah, the 3300X beat them both almost in everything except Time Spy. It like, what does that go to show you? The 3300X has such good IPC now that it actually matches a 6-core Sandy Bridge, right? So yeah, but do you see how IPC isn't everything? Like, even with those massive cache sizes and IPC gains, it's not everything. Like, what did they say? Ryzen 3 has, 10% better IPC than Skylake? Actually, that just gave me a video idea. I'm gonna do that maybe in a few videos. I'll do the 3300X at 4.5 gigahertz, and then I'll do a 9900K, but I'll reduce it to 4 cores at 4.4 gigahertz, and then we'll see what the IPC is. That's a good idea. I'll do that. But yeah, the next video I'm gonna be doing though is actually why IPC doesn't scale in gaming. I'll leave that for another time, but there's a threshold of how much IPC is gonna benefit you in gaming. So even the 49 or the 4000 series Ryzen chips, the IPC gains that we're gonna get from that, like the benefits are gonna be from that 8-core CCX, not the IPC. Like the IPC just does not scale in games, not yet. That might change when the next gen consoles come out, and then the game engines are actually written for that much IPC because they're gonna have the Zen 2 chips in them, right? That'll be a different story. But I overclocked both chips to what I would consider the maximum safe daily voltages and like dailyable settings, you know what I mean? 4.8 gigahertz on the 4790K, 4.5 on the 3300X. I put the fabric clock as high as I could. I reduced the latency on both chips as far as I could. So this is probably the best case scenario for both of these chips. And the Ryzen 3 does win. That's where I would put my purchase, actually. Not just because it wins, but because it has a future upgrade path, obviously. But if you get the 4790K for the same price that I did, like $600 for that whole build, you're not going wrong with running that still to this day. You're not going wrong at all. And then you can just wait for DDR5 to come out, because there's the difference between DDR3 and DDR5 or DDR4. Meh. You know what I mean? Meh. Also keep in mind, these aren't on stock cooling systems at all. The Ryzen chip had a 360 mil AIO on it, and the Intel chip was delidded with liquid metal and 240 mil AIO. So, but it's frame chasers, right? We're trying to see how much FPS you can get as for your as much FPS as possible with whatever you have. You know what I mean? If you have a 4790K, you should delid it and you should put liquid metal on it. You know what I mean? If you have a Ryzen 3300X, you should buy the the Samsung BDI 4000 RAM, and you should push the Fabric Clocks to 1900. You know what I mean? You should put an AIO on it. These things haul ass. You know what I mean? They game, man. And then that way you can wait for Ryzen 4000. You don't have to worry about any of this other CCX latency garbage until then, right? And it's not like the AIO that you buy for this thing isn't going to work for your future processors. Like, buying an AIO with your Ryzen CPU is going to net you X amount of performance and also X amount of future proofing anyway. So it's not even a bad investment. Don't worry about the stock coolers on these things. You want to push these things hard. A little side tangent here. You know how everyone always keeps saying that technology is going to keep changing and all your old parts are going to be obsolete soon? Oh, sorry. I just don't see that happening. Like, the best that AMD can do in 2020, you're getting 5F, this is like the best case scenario for the 3300X. Like, it is overclocked and fabricked and memory timinged as far as it can go. And you're getting 5 FPS more than a CPU from 2016, man. Like, I don't know. Like, even, let's say there's like a Ryzen 4300X with 10-15% more IPC. What is that? That's gonna be what? Like an extra 7 or 8 FPS over the 4790K? Like, it's, I don't know. It seems like no matter how far the hardware gets pushed, the software just isn't, it's not happening, man. Like, games are not written for that much IPC yet. It's just like, if you had a 4790K right now, you could probably put like 266 DDR3 on it, overclock to 4.8, and like run that thing until DDR5 comes out. Run it until an actual platform upgrade is actually worth upgrading to. You know what I mean? The only thing that these things really struggle with is if you wanted to live stream on a single PC. That's where the extra cores really do come in handy these days. This is like, the quad cores are like, make sure you have no background tasks while you're gaming, and then you'll game just fine. But if you have like your Corsair iQ and like your Discord and your OBS and your Logitech Cam software running, now we're going to start getting into some issues here, because those things all together can consume quite a bit of resources. And that's why the whole purpose of 2 PC streaming even exists. Like, even with my 9900K, I still have a 2 PC stream just because of all the damn bloatware that all that crap takes up. It's like 20% resources. Like, it's insane. And that's on an 8-core chip, right? That's why I want the 4950X, the 16 core, just so I can not have to do that crap, right? I think I'm ranting again. yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. If I missed anything, I'll put it in the comments down below. I don't script the videos. I just go off the cuff on these things. So sometimes I might repeat myself a few times. Sometimes I'll miss a point that I wanted to say, but if I forget, I'll put it in the comments. See, I just repeated myself. The next couple of videos that I'm going to be doing, I'll do some IPC testing on Skylake and the Zen 2 chips here. And then I'm actually going to try and match the bandwidth and latency as well between the chips. I'll get to that in the future video. And then I'm also going to do a video on why IPC doesn't scale in games, but it scales in Cinebench. Why is a quad-core Ryzen chip scoring as high as a 6-core Sandy Bridge, but getting tied by a 4-core 6-year-old, 5-year-old Intel chip, right? There is a reason why. I'll do a video on that as well. Those will be coming up this week sometime. Subscribe for those, and like and share with your friends if you found this valuable. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.